Welcome to the Swinburne Education Podcast. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners of the lands where Swinburne's Australian campuses are located. We acknowledge that the First Peoples are the first teachers pedagogically caring for country, kin and ancestors. I'm Jeff Orders, a lecturer in the Educational Futures team, and I'll be hosting this episode, where today I'm joined by Llew Mann, Provost Chancellor of Educational Innovation. Hi, Llew.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Throughout our conversation today, we'll discuss what the EIX is, what we do, how we're redefining our service culture to better support educators and schools across Swinburne. So to start off with, let's begin with the quantum question, which we'll be asking all our guests on this podcast. And I think this will be a great lead into our topic today. So Llew, very briefly, what do you think the future at Swinburne looks like?
In my role, I have a very privileged position to be able to think about this almost every day. What is the future of Swinburne, and particularly what's the future of education at Swinburne? I think the future of Swinburne is very much almost connecting to our roots and bringing that into a 21st century vision. So we were founded as a way of giving students who otherwise wouldn't access education, access to a technical education to improve their lives and the lives of their families. And I think that rings true today as it did when we were founded. So to me, the future is, how do we do that at scale? How do we do that so that we can really provide a personalized experience for all the learners, all the students that choose to engage with us, no matter if they're local, no matter if they're global, and then how do we use digital technologies to be able to do that at scale, but at that personalized level?
Good answer, and it's actually leading into our main sort of discussion. So first off, Llew, why don't you tell us a little bit about what EIX is and what we have been building towards over the last 2 years since the team was first really established as EIX?
Yeah, so the EIX is the Education Innovation Exchange, and it was founded about 2 years ago, bringing a couple of teams from across the university together to really help transform education at Swinburne. We knew that we needed an innovation engine, but we also needed a way of connecting people, groups, services, expertise from across the university together to really make it easier for educators to get the help that they needed, but also to start to really do some of that thinking about the future and where do we need to go and what kind of systems or processes or technologies will we need in the future. How do we bring those together as well? So that's why we established the EIX really as that muscle almost to help our educators transform and deliver a fantastic student experience. The way I think about it is we're really here to help educators deliver that student experience. What we've been doing over the last couple of years and what we'll talk about today is some of the things that we've been doing to almost reinvent ourselves and how we deliver those services and support and help to our educators, to our schools in higher ed, to our vet colleagues, and even our T&E partners into Sarawak.
Nice. And just from a personal point of view, as an educator, we were just talking before about, I've been an educator at higher ed for 15, 16 years now. And yeah, it's so important having that support that's not always been there in the past. So we've been talking a lot about change and transformation and new ways of working over the past few months. What does that new model for the EIX and probably more importantly, the services that we deliver look like to you? And why is now the right time to be focusing on this?
Yeah, good question, Jeff. And I suppose this is what we've been spending good 6-7 months really thinking about with the launch of Ad Astra, and with the launch of the aspiration that we have within our strategy to deliver a learner experience and to really support individualized journeys to success for all of our learners that are digital, that are industry related, and that are global. We realized that we needed to be far closer to our educators than we probably have been in the past. And we need to deliver quite a different type of service and support to those educators than we probably have in the past. We need to adapt our ways of working to meet our educators where they're at in order for them to meet our students where they're at. So what we've been doing is really thinking about what does that service provision currently look like? What are the pain points to use that language? We've done a bunch of interviews with educators, focus groups. We've looked internally at our own operations, looked where we can improve things, and then work with some subject matter experts in the university on service design, service culture, and how do we really articulate a better way of delivering that support directly to educators. It is very much new for some areas within the EIX, and so we are viewing it very much as we're prototyping ourselves towards that future. And what we're finding actually is other areas in the university are keen on understanding what we're doing to prototype a new way of delivering services for them as well to go on their own journey, which I think is really fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a really exciting thing too, that like, when I'm talking to people in different areas, one of the things that pops up all the time is it really exciting what you're doing at EIX? And it's like, yeah, because I think part of that is just because a lot of it is seen as being sort of new, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily new. It's just a different way, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's a different way. I mean, I don't think we can never think that what we're doing is perfect. We can never think that what we're doing is everything that we need to do. We need to be constantly evolving. We need to be constantly challenging ourselves and the ways of working, but with a clear purpose. And again, that clear purpose that we have within the AIX is how do we become a trusted partner of choice for educators, for our colleagues across the university, so that they come to us for help, for advice, for support, with an idea, whatever it might be. We are the people that they can turn to.
Yeah, and it's good because you just mentioned that trusted partner of choice, and that's one of the ambitions of this work at the EIX is to become that trusted partner of choice for our educators. What does that particularly mean to you, and what does it look like in practice?
Yeah, look, it's something that when I stepped into this central leadership role just over 4 years within the old Learning Transformations Unit, and then we launched the EIX, it was something that I held really core to what I wanted to try to achieve, was how do we create a group of people that are trusted and that educators, that others across the university feel they want to partner with. When we think about partner of choice, though, we're not thinking about things in partnership. It's very much that, ownership of the way that we teach, the way that we deliver to students, the decisions we make around curriculum is very much owned by the disciplines and the areas across the university. But we want to partner, we want to support, we want to be there by their side, helping them, guiding them, providing ideas, lending some muscle if they need it, but really doing what they need to better deliver what they want to deliver. So framing it in that way, I think really helps. I also come back to what my measure of success is, and I communicate this quite often to the broader team within the EIX. To me, success is that the people that work with us would recommend working with us to other colleagues.
Yep.
If we can achieve that, that everyone that comes in contact with the AX, everyone that works with us, whether it's a one-off interaction, I haven't taught for a while, I've forgotten how Greyback works, can you tell me how to do this, versus I have this idea, I want to transform the assessment in my unit, who can I work with to develop that? Everyone that walks away from those kind of experiences with EX says, this is great. And yes, I would absolutely encourage others to reach out for support. That to me is success.
I know with my work, when I work with other departments and other areas and educators and things like that, I tend to use the word that we're here to assist you. So it's really, we're not coming in to fix things. We're here to assist and that sort of thing. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and this is certainly some of the work that we've been doing around the service culture. Is we know that different educators and different departments and different parts of the university will come with different needs. Some might be just looking for some resources and they've got it themselves. Some might be wanting to talk to someone, feeling more supported or having some questions answered. Some might be lost and really looking for that guidance, but some are really wanting to innovate. One of the things that I think we've done really well, and off the back of the Adobe partnership that we've had for a number of years and the Adobe Innovative grants, is that real opportunity for educators to do something quite innovative, but in a safe environment, in a safe way, and how do we kind of support them? I want to really do more of that. The best innovation, in my experience, happens as a groundswell, but that's enabled by things that you set up in the system to support that and to grow that. And so that's really one of the things that I'm keen to do through the way that we support and provision services across the universities. How do we support those local innovations rather than trying to drive and tell people what they should be doing?
So when we're talking about education, which is our main goal with this, but some of the most important voices to hear from in that conversation are, of course, our students. So as part of this podcast series, we'll be bringing the student voice into each and every episode. Earlier this week, we caught up with some of our students to ask them about what kind of changes to the learning experience at Swinburne are most important to them. So here's what a few of them had to say.
I would like to see a little bit more compromise. I am a mature age student. I am financially independent. I have a mortgage. I have to work full time, and when timetables are specifically rigid, it just makes it really difficult to be able to work and get through study.
I think I'd love to see multiple classes like interacting together, maybe where like for certain courses, classes get to have like workshops together or practical sessions together. So there's more of a larger environment in the hands-on sessions that are really fun, but I think they could be enhanced by having just more people and more perspectives and more people learning together.
I think I just want to see more kind of campus activities, to see the community get together, maybe a Swinburne community, just see I don't know if it's more games being played on campus, or just see a really good campus culture. That's kind of just what I really like.
It would be nice if they can improve on the socializing aspect of it, maybe create an environment that attract more people to socialize.
I'd like there to be shorter lectures if that's possible. So we have a lot of 2-hour lectures which don't need to be 2 hours. So I know this is an issue that a lot of universities are facing, but it's a real shame to see socializing not be as much a part of the tertiary experience as it used to be. Heard, stories from people who finished university before COVID, and it sounds like the social aspect was just as much important as the educational. I know it's kind of a hard thing. You can't really force people to socialise, but it just has been a shame to see that since finishing high school, then going through lockdown and kind of coming to this.
That was interesting. There was a few themes coming across there from the students. But after hearing what our students are most interested in changing about the learner experience, how do you see these ideas aligning with where education transformation is taking us over the next 5 years?
Yeah, that was fantastic. And it really brings home the importance of listening to our students and our students' experience. We often say that our students are experts at being students. And knowing what's important to them, what's working, what's not working. And so I think that that's something that really kind of brings home a lot of the things that we do have in Train, and we do have a lot of things in Train. If I reflect about some of those things that some of our fantastic students shared, there was this feeling of the need for flexibility, that more and more students need to fit learning into their lives rather than their lives into learning. And that's a big focus for education transformation and the broader Ad Astra. How do we enable personalised learning journeys? And that is about providing flexibility. There's a number of things we're trying to do and we're experimenting with and we're prototyping at the moment about providing that flexibility. One of the big ones that we are looking, again, actually, we have a workshop coming up in a week or two with students, is around how do we activate more of the calendar year. We know that for what our students have told us, studying 4 units in a semester is almost too much, particularly when almost all of our students are having to work part-time. They may have caring responsibilities. They travel to come to campus. It's too much. And yet we only have study 26, 27 weeks of the year. There are lots of opportunities, particularly for those that are having to work part-time and who have all those other responsibilities, to look at how do we activate more of those other times outside of semesters. And we're doing some co-creation workshops and exercises with students around. Part of that's flexibility, because for many students, there's a challenge not to be a full-time student for government subsidies and payments and those sorts of things. So it's not how do you just default being a part-time student. It's actually how do we think differently about providing students flexibility. One of the other things that those students talked on was kind of interactions, shorter lectures, that actual learning experience. The best learning is active and collaborative. So there's a lot of opportunities I think we can really look at getting back to the fundamentals, and particularly what are the fundamentals of learning that happens on campus. a large number of our students, particularly here in Melbourne, want an on-campus experience. They don't want an online experience. We have an amazing Swinburne online experience for those that want and need that kind of flexibility and that kind of experience. But for those that want an on-campus experience, what does that look like to learn on campus such that it's active and collaborative? And there's a lot of work that we're starting to think about. How do we do that from a pedagogical perspective, from a collaborative perspective, from interactions, within subjects, within units, across disciplines. Some of the things that we're exploring is around how do we look at interdisciplinary experiences, particularly those that are linked to innovation. But the other thing that I really heard from those students was that perceived lack of a campus activity and vibe and socializing and connection. And I think it is a real challenge, because for many students, it's not actually practical because of the experiences I've just shared earlier. If you're working 20, 25 hours a week and you're traveling and you're studying, you don't have time to hang out on campus for a few hours and socialize and do these sorts of things. And so, yes, absolutely, we're looking at ways of more activity on campus. And actually, I was in some discussions earlier today around off the back of the new estate plan for the university, and how do we activate more spaces? How do we get more student activity happening? So that is part of the puzzle. But I actually think it's how do we get that interaction to happen, that socializing to happen in the classroom, and not just say, well, it has to happen outside the classroom, because we know for a lot of students, they can't afford to do that socializing outside the classroom because there's other priorities.
Quite often we separate socializing with others. We think, oh, that's extracurricular, but why can't it be part of curricula?
Yeah. I mean, for many people that, particularly that have gone through that conventional university experience that is an on-campus experience, the thing that they remember are those social connections. I think that there's a lot more that we can do to encourage those social connections to happen at the same time as learning, in the same spaces that we are hoping that students are learning, rather than almost segregating in them, saying, you are learning here, you can't be talking, you can't be socialized, you can't be interacting with everyone. Or, heaven forbid, when we do want you to interact, it's in a group work setting and we just throw you together without teaching you how to work together in teams, and then it becomes a negative experience of having to socialize. Or we'll do an icebreaker.
The other thing, and this is something else that I'm personally a little bit excited about, but as part of this evolution with the EIX, is the Education Innovation Lab. What can you tell us about the vision for the lab and how it is going to drive educational innovation at Swinburne? Because I think this lines up with what we were just talking about.
Yeah, look, absolutely. The Education Innovation Lab is probably one of the most exciting things that I've been part of in my time at Swinburne. And I was reflecting earlier, I've been at Swinburne now 16 years. The way that I originally conceived of the lab was, how do we start to explore the future now so that we can start to experiment with things, hoping that we might then be prepared for the future, whether it be technologies, AI being a big one, whether it be different ways of engaging, different pedagogies we can be using, how do we embed students within a workplace environment, these sorts of things. So that was the original concept. But the more that it's evolved, it's developed much more of a futures lens, to the extent of how do we actually develop rigorous processes to imagine what the futures could be for education, to identify signals of those futures, and then start to explore and experiment with what those could be now in order to develop insights for where we should be doing work now to prepare for those futures. That's the bit that is actually quite exciting for me. I'm not a betting man, but it's where do you place your bets? I'll give you an example. If we're going to move to a future where we will all have our own learning agent, and it will know Jeff, it will be Jeff too, and it will know everything about you, everything you've ever done, the things that you do really well, preferences you have in engaging with materials. It will know your daily cycle in terms of when you wake up, when you're performing at your best, when you're a bit lethargic. It will also know that you're in a class with these other people, and it will know, what their preferences are, and it will say, don't forget when you're in this interaction with these, with your colleagues, to do these things and to say these. It will nudge you. It will do everything around you, and it will effectively, in a particular future, it will replace the idea of an educator, because it will be the thing that will know you so well. It will know how to help you learn the best. If that's our future, I'm not necessarily saying that that's what's going to happen, but if that's our future, one of the things then that throws up are all sorts of questions around, well, what would learning look like in that environment? What's social interaction? What is the role of the educator? What kind of, even kind of more technical things, what kind of data and systems might we need to have that would underpin that kind of technology? How do we make that equitable? How do we make sure that that's not actually harming the students that are using it and limiting their ability to learn or connect? These are the sorts of things that we're starting to explore in the lab, to then go, okay, if this is a possible future, how do we start to experiment with the futures that we want to happen rather than the futures that may happen if we let them happen to us?
Yeah, I think it's not about what the future will be, it's what it could be. So it's actually really open to those opportunities.
My hope is that the lab will absolutely be an innovation engine. How do we understand and to start to develop innovation to really change and transform education in fairly sophisticated, big picture ways, in collaboration with educators, in collaboration with students, in collaboration with external industry partners, community groups? So how do we kind of really do that innovation? I'm hoping that it will be more than that it will be about how do we start to proactively choose and move towards futures that are beneficial for students, that are beneficial for community, rather than letting things happen to us. And that, I think, is the big challenge that we face around technology, around AI, and around education, is because if we're not deliberate about the futures we're moving towards, things will happen to us and we won't get to decide the outcomes.
Yeah. And just the other thing, sort of to finish up on that point, but I think what you were just talking about, that the lab will be inclusive of educators, students, all the rest of it, actually goes back to what some of the students were saying about that socialization and how do we do that a little bit more. Lou, this has been really cool, and I like sitting down and talking to you. But as we wrap it up, is there anything else that we haven't really touched on yet that you want to share? Any of these things that you want to share that we don't know about yet?
I'm in a really privileged position where I get to think about this a lot. And I get to think about the role that Swinburne can really play as an innovator. We're in this unique position as a university where we're big enough to have an impact, but small enough to be innovative, try different things, change direction. And I think that we don't want to lose that opportunity. We are in control of our own destiny. And there's an opportunity when we really think about education, and again, grounded to the purpose of education and why we were established in the first place, that how do we really do some truly amazing stuff in that space to really enable all learners to succeed, whatever success looks like to them, at scale in a really impactful way, and build that future. Again, I do come back to our vision as a university, and people and technology together for a better world. And I think that's a really grounding statement rather than a visionary out there statement. It's a really grounding statement to say, well, how does that apply to the way that we deliver education and what we do? Because most of us are in universities, most of us work in universities because it aligns to our purpose. We see impact. And so that idea of people and technology together for a better world, I find a really grounding statement to drive us forward and say, yep, this absolutely aligns to what we should be doing.
Yeah. Probably a little bit of background for our listeners, but Lou and I have known each other for a long time now, about a decade. And Lou was actually my PhD supervisor as I went through my PhD. And I remember getting an email. I was in sociology, and I got an email when I was applying from my supervisor, and she went, "Oh, we've got an ADE from engineering who might be interested." And I went, "Engineering? Why?" And I remember her comment was along the lines of, "But he's very focused on the educational experience." And so that was back in 2016. It's interesting to see where you've gone now, and it's just, you've gone from just having that educational focus at the school level to now at the university level, which I think is very cool. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me, Llew. It's been a really good conversation. I've really enjoyed this and appreciate taking time out of your busy schedule to share more about where the EIX is heading, because I think this is really important across the university. So, and finally, just want to thank our listeners for tuning into this is our first episode of the Swinburne Education Podcast. We'll be bringing you new episodes every month covering a wide variety of topics. In saying that, next month, I'll be catching up with some of our student support services for a rich discussion about how we can ensure every learner at Swinburne receives the support they need to succeed. So be sure to tune in for that one. And if you have an idea or a topic that you'd like to see discussed on the podcast, or even if you'd like to be a guest, be sure to get in touch with us here at the EIX, and you can join in the conversation in the education practice community on Viva Engage. So thank you very much, Llew.
Thanks, Jeff.
Cheers.